5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You blitz all night. And if they cross the line of scrimmage, I'm going to take every last one of you out.
Hey, the Blitz is coming, boys.
To another episode of The Blitz. You know what it is by now. We're giving you the latest and greatest in fantasy football news, injury reports, tips and tricks, and everything in between in just 5 minutes or less. So in this episode, we got to talk about some earth-shattering news. Davante Adams wants to be traded away from the Raiders? Where is this coming from? I'll tell you where it's coming from and more, or at least what's been reported so far. And we got to talk about the fantasy implications of a potential trade to or away from the Raiders. So, not to or from the Raiders, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm trying to say. Davante Adams being traded away from the Raiders has big implications for not only the Raiders, but his potential landing spot as well. So we're going to get right into that. So no news. No news this time. This is just too much. We got to talk about what's going on. So before we do, make sure you lock in with the Fantasy's Finest podcast on our YouTube channel. You can check out the latest episodes of The Blitz. They're going to be uploaded there for video purposes and for audio. We're on Spotify. I'm trying to get us on Apple. They're giving me a runaround. But Spotify, iHeartRadio, we're already there. And I'll let you know when more are being uploaded for you to be able to watch the show. So, or listen to it. But let's get into it because we got a lot to cover. Listen. Davante Adams has requested to be traded away from the Raiders. And news broke earlier today about the request being made. The thing about it is, it seems to stem from head coach Antonio Pierce liking a social media post that has suggested that Davante Adams could be traded. I don't know if that's the catalyst for the request from Adams, but it just seemed like that happened, and then Adams requesting the trade. Now, right now, teams are doing their due diligence and checking in on the asking price for Davante Adams from the Raiders. There's one report circulating right now that the Raiders are looking for a second-round pick and other compensational pieces, whether it's picks or players, to come in that offer for Davante Adams. And there's already been some teams linked to Adams as potential trade partners. You have the Dallas Cowboys, who, for whatever reason, continue to get mentioned in these scenarios, despite the fact that they rarely make any moves of this magnitude for a trade. Last time, it was Amari Cooper a few years ago. We haven't made a splash since. If you don't know, I'm a Dallas Cowboy. You can't see it if you're listening, but I got this Cowboy shirt on. So, we don't make moves like that. But we're constantly getting put in these trade scenarios where, the Cowboys could be interested. But it's the Cowboys, the Jets, the Steelers, and the Commanders. Those are the teams that their names have been circulating around the web, internet, whatever you want to call it. Their names are being mentioned right now. And it does make sense why these teams are mentioned. Like I said, the Cowboys get mentioned for everything. But the fact is, they do need another wide receiver to help out their offense. The Jets, there's more familiarity with Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett there. Davante Adams could go and fit right in with his guy. That would hurt Garrett Wilson's fantasy value. Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers have an uncanny connection that Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers haven't been able to build up on. So it definitely would hurt Garrett Wilson's fantasy value. The Steelers, they needed a wide receiver too for the longest. They tried to get Brandon Ayuk earlier in the offseason. It just didn't happen. The Commanders also need another wide receiver behind Terry McLaurin. It would likely impact. For the Commanders, I don't think it would impact Terry McLaurin because him and Jaden Daniels are gelling right now. If anything, it would give Jaden Daniels another weapon to be able to move that offense with Cliff Kingsbury at the play calling position. One other note, the contract for Davante Adams has been brought up as maybe an issue, but according to SpotRack.com, he is owed there's $35 million plus on the next 2 years of his deal at 2025 and 2026, but there's no guaranteed money on those deals or on those years. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and try and pretend like I'm some kind of capologist. I'm not. So I'll do my due diligence to try and find out some more information in that regard. But the fantasy implications for Adams leaving are huge because if he goes or he gets traded, Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers become immediate fantasy assets in that Raiders offense moving forward. And you also have a boost to Trey Tucker, who's been performing well as the wide receiver 2, with Davante Adams apparently dealing with a hamstring injury. Oh, for those not on the video, I'm doing air quotes. But 15 targets over the last 2 games for Trey Tucker, 137 yards and a touchdown. Trey Tucker would be the wide receiver 2 behind Jacoby Myers in that offense. All 3 of those players would see significant increases in their roles without Davante Adams being on the roster. So now we just got to wait and see who's going to be the team to come in and take Davante Adams off the Raiders' hands. Would I like it to be my Cowboys? Of course. Is it likely that it won't happen? Absolutely. But we'll get to see where Davante Adams lands and how his fantasy impact the rest of the season will be cemented if he's moved at all. So that's it for the show, guys. I told y'all 5 minutes or less, we got to get in that mark. But that's it for the show. Make sure you check us out on our YouTube channel at Phinest, and don't miss an episode of The Blitz. Until next time.
Yo, come back now, yeah!